good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The following show is just horrifying. Beware.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Greetings, constant listeners. This is Rockin' Randall, and you are about to hear the second part of our two-part Bag of Bones discussion. If you haven't listened to part one, I have no idea why you're here. But hey, enjoy.
Look at me. Look at me, teacher.
So here in Structure and Format, we talk about the structure and format. And I think this book is notable. It's not a particularly, experimental book, but I think it is notable that this is a first-person read. We've already talked a little bit about King's closeness with Mike and the idea that he is very much writing from his own perspective in many areas of it. But do you guys like first-person King, or do you prefer third-person King? The only first-person Kings I believe we've had is Dolores Claiborne, which is written in a very specific dialect, and then also The Body. If there's others, I'm just blanking on them right now.
What trips me up always is that this is supposed to be first person retrospective, and not to be one of those people that's like a book written in first person retrospective should mimic how a person would actually deliver a retelling of events, because that's just not true. Books can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that King just sort of picks and chooses when to remember that he's writing in first person retrospective and when to drop in some classic moments of King foreshadowing, before Maddie's death, when he's the next time I talked to her, she was bleeding out or whatever.
Yeah.
He'll drop in foreshadowing in ways that are really inconsistent and just sort of, again, just pick and choose from that toolbox of the retrospective mode. And I just wish there had been more consistency and playing with that particular mode of telling more. I think King is so always close to first person anyway, because he does those great King parentheticals when he's talking in third person, where we get the literal kind of avalanche of thoughts from people.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it didn't feel like we were granted a hugely noticeable increased amount of intimacy. And in fact, when I did notice that we were getting more intimacy, I was like, I wish we were more distant from this man. So first person King is just... It's just closer to King, for better or for worse.
I think it does have a lot to do with what we think about the main character. I think when we discussed Dolores Claiborne, I know that we were a bit mixed on the use of the dialect and the voice itself with Dolores, but that character was at least somebody I didn't mind spending time with. She was a character I loved sort of living within her thoughts. And I think with The Body too, Gordy, adult Gordy, who's narrating the story, is a very amiable, very likable presence to, be leading you through this story. Yeah, I think that's my thing with Mike. And I texted Mel this pretty well early on in my read, but I was like, I think Mike Noonan is my most hated King protagonist of all time. And I really hate spending this entire book in his head. In The Shining, you get to hop around, or, in a lot of his books, there's always that thrilling sense of hopping between different people's heads and spending time with different characters. And here we're really firmly embedded in Mike Noonan's mind, which is why I think we don't really get to build out the town, the ensemble, as much as I would have liked, which is always one of my favorite King things. But yeah, any other thoughts on this, on the way this book is laid out?
I have two real specific complaints beyond I hate Mike Noonan.
Okay.
Which at some point I actually wrote, am I supposed to hate him this much?
Yeah.
There is this weird lack of self-awareness that we've mentioned before. One is that I wish we had done this almost diary style. Because there's a lot of this happened on Tuesday, this happened on Friday, and then there was a thing that was going to happen on Saturday, but I didn't know it was going to happen yet. So
Right.
I almost wish he would just have done it chapters organized around a date. This is what happened on this date,
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I've forgotten the second thing that I didn't like.
Was it that you hated Mike Noonan?
Maybe it was I hated Mike Noonan. There is the Steve, King kind of clumsy foreshadowing stuff.
He does say that it's a memoir at the end, right? Like he says that it's something.
I remember what my
wrote.
thing is. I remember what my thing is. As someone who struggles with writer block myself, in the opening when he's talking about the writer's block, whatever, first 100 pages, part of me was like, this is a book written by someone with writer's block.
Yeah.
Like there was like, I know you're not supposed to like maybe have that kind of thought, but then he seems to almost at the end, he seems to remember like, oh, I've put a book in the voice of someone who says he can't write. And so he adds like something like, I haven't been able to write anything except this memoir.
I know, and that's so funny because it's already so long too. So I remember when I got to that point of things, I haven't been able to write anything except this that you've just read.
It's funny because I love how prolific he is too, and maybe to him this is writer's block, only be able to put out a few thousand pages a week. But it reminds me of like if you have like a friend who's very attractive and they're in a photo with you and they're like, oh, I look terrible in that picture. And I'm like, well, I'm standing next to you and I wish I looked like you. So this is Stephen King's version of writer's block.
I'm working on a novel right now, and it's just funny because like I'm happy if I get, like 5 pages out like in a day. But then King's like, Mike at one point it's like, oh yeah, I only got 8 today. Or he's like, I was working for like 2 hours and I got 8 pages done or something. It's like, and he's like, I got to speed it up. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, I was gonna say just my thoughts on Mike, because he didn't elicit as much hate in me, but I didn't really like him either. I was pretty apathetic. Kind of how I felt about the novel, which a little spoiler for later on. But yeah, I thought he was kind of not necessarily an unreliable narrator, because he seems like everything he described pretty much happened, but maybe looking back with, I don't know, like an understanding in 2021 of some of the stuff he says, you're not really as, magnanimous as you think you are in a lot of ways. Like, I think he always thinks his character is doing the right thing, but you're kind of like, are you though? Like,
I just wish we knew if the book wanted us to think if he was doing the right thing. And like, my impression is that it is. Yeah. But like, again, there's just so many instances where I'm like, but this is so referential that I wonder if this is a stab at awareness, and I can't tell.
And there was one scene in particular, like his first day when he gets the TR, he's like, well, I got to do my chores. First thing is get a library card because I love to read and books are important. And it's like the kind of person, the first thing they do when they go to town is get a library card. It's like, give me a break. That's not the first. It was
a different time.
Hey, now, I just moved back and one of the first things I did was get my library card.
I have a library card in my neighborhood.
All the things that he does, that's actually kind of like charming.
Not everybody hates reading like you, Dan.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, you guys fell for it. But I'm just saying, like, that's
it's like the underage thing is like whatever, but this library card.
Yeah, but that's like that's someone trying to make you like them. I don't know. It's like first thing I did was donate clothes to the Salvation Army.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. His forced folksiness was like really galling at points.
Also, he's the only person that the caretakers like.
Yeah,
That's a very Kingian like. Again, I'm sure that's how Stephen King feels about his caretaker, that he's the only rich person that caretaker genuinely likes. All the other rich people that he's a caretaker for, he doesn't really like them, but he likes Stephen.
That's a good observation. That's exactly right.
Since I think this conversation is naturally segued into discussion of Mike, so let's hop over to heroes and villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
Here in Heroes and Villains, we talk about the characters a little bit more in depth than we did in The Hook. We've obviously dug pretty deep into a lot of this, but I think there's a little more to unpack when we talk about Mike and Maddie. I just want to read a few more of these quotes that King said. A lot of this was in the audiobook interview he did. But this also, he said to Salon, because Salon seemed, out of all the publications, most interested in that relationship between Maddie and Mike. He even said, he goes, oh, you're the first people to ask me about this. But he says, what happens to these relationships when, say, the man is 60 and the woman is 40, or when the man is 80 and the woman is 60? And several of the reviews of Bag of Bones, people have said about Maddie that she's an unformed character, that she's not as satisfying as some of the other characters in the book. Well, I'm sorry, but when you have a 20-year-old girl who lives in a trailer, who's been married since the age of 17 and widowed a couple of years later, who's trying to sort of characters scrape by, that is not the stuff of which fascinating, paradoxical, bewitching characters are made. So I did the best with that I could.
That quote is like the most offensive thing Stephen King has ever said.
Yeah.
It is. It's so goddamn ungenerous. And one of the things I think we sometimes talk about is what we like about King is that he's usually pretty generous with his characters.
Right.
He's usually like even some of the villains, right? Like those are the really interesting, complicated villains that we like Harold Lauder, right? Like he gives them. Harold Lauder's 17 and virgin.
Yeah, and
like,
he's plenty complicated.
What is not bewitching and interesting about like a teen mom? Like you want to know that story. Like, are you an idiot? Like
child of alcoholics who somehow like scraped her way, like kind of into a decent place in life. And
yeah. Is this classism? Like, is he just like, oh, she's literally trailer trash? Like, you know that story. Like, is that what he's saying? Like, I just don't understand how he has this opinion.
Like, the response seems very reactionary. And I do notice that he gets that way sometimes with media when he's like, a question that he doesn't want to be asked, and once he gets asked that, he just kind of freaks out. And I've been on some of the Twitter episodes of the Stephen King's tweets, and I was one who kind of compared some of his tweets have a mirror of Donald Trump's tweets, and that he gets really upset and he'll just kind of lash out. And it's like, I don't think he would defend these words today.
He probably wouldn't. I think maybe he has the awareness now to be like, it was Mike's book, not Maddie's book, and I didn't care about Maddie. Like,
which would have been a more thoughtful answer and a more honest one. But I just feel like the way with this, he's like, so I did the best with it I could. It's like, well, you chose to do this undertaking. Nobody assigned you to write this character, so don't get mad at that.
Here, write this write this teen mom.
Right.
Like, try to make her interesting. I tried.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Right.
Like,
and I think
I
think the classist element comes in some ways from, like, I love that you brought up Harold, Anna, because Harold, in some ways is reflective of King as a teenager. And Harold's had a lot less life experience than Maddie has had in this book. And yet he never says the same thing about Harold. So I think that that's a little bit bizarre, but I think it is sort of important to revisit the first scene with Maddie a little bit. I've got it up here. And I think the first thing that he says is that he assumes that Maddie is a shitty mother. And I mean, maybe part of that is due to the fact that, he finds her child walking in the road. So I guess there is that aspect of, you might assume neglectful parenting, but there is something really loaded in the way that he instantly assumes like Maddie is going to smack the kid or something when she comes to get him. So let me bring up this section here. The driver's door flew open. Maddie DeVore flew out like a circus acrobat shot from a cannon. If you can imagine a circus acrobat dressed in old paisley shorts and a cotton smock top. My first thought was that the little girl's big sister had been babysitting her, that Maddie and Mummy were two different people. I knew that little kids often spend a period of their development calling their parents by their first names, but this pale-cheeked blonde girl looked all of 12, 14 at the outside. So that's how young he describes Maddie as 12 to 14. And he says, there was something else too, okay? Another assumption that I made. The muddy four-wheel drive, the baggy paisley shorts, the smock that all but screamed Kmart, the long yellow hair held back with those little red elastics, and most of all, the inattention that allows the 3-year-old in your care to go wandering off in the first place. All those things said trailer trash to me. I know how that sounds, but I had some basis for it. Also, I'm Irish, goddammit. My ancestors were trailer trash when the trailers were still horse-drawn caravans. You want to talk about defensive writing, Mel? Like,
it's the same where, like, okay, at least he's recognizing that this is fucked up to think. Like, he's like, okay, I know this is bad. I'm going to be defensive about it, whatever. But then, rather than bear out this, like, you were wrong and, like, look, she's beautiful in her own way, it's like she becomes more and more beautiful the more untrailer trashy she gets. Yeah.
Well, he has this fetish where he imagines her at a country club dressed up and how beautiful she'd be then,
that's when she's at her most beautiful later, when she looks like she's in her tennis whites.
Yep.
I like have most of this section, like tons of red that reads like a little much, Jesus Christ, my God, I do not like you. Yes, my God, quit it. Jesus Christ. Oh, and then where's this person here? Well, he says, it was my first day back in town. I didn't want to spend any of it watching an inattentive slut.
Yep.
Abuse her child. I mean, it's one thing to go from like I just want to point out the sexuality here. Like, it's one thing to go from like she might be an attentive mother to slut.
Yeah, that was really shocking to me because, I mean, not even
sometimes I feel like that was also just part of how King kind of talks in these books back then. Like there's that other line where Mike just casually drops in this metaphor that's like as discreetly as a pimp like leading you to a whore's bedroom, as if that's like a normal metaphor to like slot into a book with that for nothing that has to do with like sex work or sex at all. Like I don't know. It's so fucking weird.
I think that sequence too, like when Anna was talking about, there's a lot of class mixed in with the sexuality there, which is very strange. Because she kind of, the way you describe it, she sounds like a Dolores Hayes, right? She's like this Lolita, that sort of look. And then, she's probably going to hit her. She's probably white trash. Oh, imagine her at a country club, right? A place that she would never go. But if she was there, just imagine the reactions it would get.
Except as a maid or waitress.
Yeah, exactly.
Might,
and it does turn out later. Sorry,
I was going to say, even the thing, like when he says, but hey, I'm allowed to say white trash because my ancestors, that reminds me of like politicians being like, well, my grandpa was a farmer, so therefore I know what it's like to be lower class, right?
My mom was a slut.
Yeah, like I can do that, but I don't know, just like having this conversation is making me more realize like how much classism is in this.
But novel. I think, and two, again, like the slut thing, like that does end up getting disproven in a way that seems subtly endorsed by the book later when she's like, I just want you to know Lance was my first and you'll be my second. Like I've been with nobody else. And it's like, yes, that makes her all the more appealing. She's not really a slut.
And he also assumes that she's stupid.
Yep.
You know, and like when she recognizes him, which of course, like always in Stephen King books, like the authors are like
the rock stars,
celebrities that people recognize by sight. She was the right age after all, and my books were probably better for her than spending her afternoons in front of General Hospital and One Life to Live. And then the thing with Bartleby.
Yes, he has a teacher about Bartleby.
Bartleby's not that obscure. I don't know if anybody here's read it, but like it's
oh yeah, I know Bartleby well.
That terrible part where she's like, can you explain the whole thing to me? I want to impress my library sluts.
Friends, yeah, like
sluts, my fellow sluts.
My fellow library sluts, that's good. Like that might have been a good chance to show that she's got like something going on in her head. Like she's like, I like it, but I don't understand. Could you please explain to me? Just Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so he talked about this a little bit more. He says, one of the moral dilemmas I set up in the story is that Mike Noonan falls in love and becomes attracted with a woman who is half his age. And in a way, complicating this even further and kind of juicing my interest in the problem is not only is she half his age, but she looks even younger than that. So the dilemma that's set up there is one that I think any man my age could relate to. There's still a biological imperative that you're attracted to women who are increasingly younger than you, who are increasingly less interested in old guys. So in a way, it's wish fulfillment, a little self-awareness there. You realize something here is not quite right. This is not exactly an entirely healthy pull. So in the course of trying to work out what their relationship would be, is that one of the tensions of the book is that there's a genuine love between them. So there's a family unit here. Fate is calling him to finish up.
I wish he would stop saying biological imperative.
I know. Yeah. So, and then he has another line it was just kind of fucked up. He goes, I've gotten into situations like this before. I love the idea of stories that go in a direction that's considered politically incorrect. In Bag of Bones, the question became whether or not Mike Noonan is going to sleep with Maddie DeVore, and what is their sex going to be like? It would probably be really great. But and he said for both of them, but what is the conversation going to be like the next week, the next year? What happens to Maddie? But he says, with what happens to Maddie, though, the question is never answered. So,
I don't object to those questions, and I don't object to writing about things that he thinks are quote politically incorrect. It's just like Maddie needs to be a character for them to be in love at all, and she's not. She's this vacuous vehicle for Mike to think that she's hot. That's the problem.
The majority of her scenes are her being so excited to talk to him and thank him for all he's done for her. And
he's also doing this nice guy savior shit, which is like,
well, he at least reckons a little bit with that. I mean, and I think that says something about Mike too, which is, I think he's a little bit obsessed with, I think this is King reckoning a little bit with his wealth too, and because there's so much discussion about that. I had one quote here that I thought was interesting. He says, wealth is like the Richter scale. Once you pass a certain point, the jumps from one level to the next aren't double or triple, but some amazing and ruinous multiple you don't even want to think about. Fitzgerald had it straight, although I guess he didn't believe his own insight. The very rich are different from you and me. I thought of telling Bill that and decided to keep my mouth shut. He had a sump pump to fix. So I don't know. He goes back and forth between being like, I'm a normal guy, I swear, but I could pay for your entire existence.
Right. Well,
you know?
that's one thing. If it was a third person perspective, it would be funny if Maddie was just playing him this whole time. Right. Like, and you find out she's like, all I had to do was like brush up against him a little bit. And this old man's going to pay for my custody. You know, like, might have been interesting. I think she genuinely did like him in this book from the way it's written, but that might have been a nice insight into her. Because, I mean, we know actually, too, that she didn't care about the money because she was willing to stay with her husband even after he lost his fortune. So, yeah. Or his inheritance, I should say.
Yeah. And that's about the most insight I feel like we get into who she really is. Like, I wish we knew more about her relationship with Lance and even saw more of her as a mother. I think she's so willing and open to welcome Mike into her life that it's just like there's no hesitancy whatsoever to that. So
it's all wish fulfillment. She literally makes no wrong step at any turn where Mike is like, oh, maybe this is bad or she is bad. Like, it's all just, yes, the perfect woman in a stressful situation.
She did let her kid run by the highway. I'll fault her for that.
She didn't let her kid. She just lost her. Attention was diverted.
I would be judgmental in that situation.
But without that, he wouldn't have got to brush against the barely there boob. So
Hey, I'm not saying that. If I saw a child along the highway, I would assume bad parenting.
You would assume slut.
Yes, that's the jump that I can't make with Mike. Or I just.
Let's talk about Mike in the sense that, like, we're ragging on him a lot because he is a pretty unpleasant character. And I think the central question, and Mel, you brought this up earlier, and I think it's been sort of activating a lot of the conversation, is the question of what does King want us to think about him? Like, you know, Anna, you had that in your notes. Like, am I supposed to like this character? And I was asking that too. And that's the thing is, like you brought up, Mel, there are these moments where we feel like Mike is interrogating himself, but in the end, it just, like, everyone in his life loves him. Everyone thinks he's great. His wife, you know, like when he's like, would my wife cheat on me? And the person's like, no, she loved you. You know, it's like he doesn't seem to have any enemies or people who find him thorny or find him any of these things. He is beloved by people, which is what I think, and desired by people. I think that's sort of what makes me feel like King really doesn't have an interest in making this a character who has a darker side in that sense. Like, I feel like we are supposed to like this character and be very charmed by this character. So I guess my question is, when in this book did you find yourself most intrigued by him? Because I know that there are parts of it that we did enjoy. And I guess I'm just curious, like, when did you like Mike Noonan the most?
I think I've already said this, but his description of the writing process at times is very compelling.
Yeah.
Although I did also notice that the men in the basement metaphor he uses, he specifies that they're working class at some point, which is you know,
with their
a
little
on the
pale
nose.
lunches.
Like, yeah. I also just wanted to throw in there, when he's wondering if Joe has had an affair, one of the things that he gets stuck on is that it's an older man.
Yeah.
What about that biological imperative?
Right.
Like, to be attracted to younger people. I guess that's the domain of men only, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the writing stuff is that's not masturbatory, which again, it's sort of hard to tease apart because maybe that's just how it is for him. Is pretty good. I think that the fair scene also it is well done, although there's the problematic description of Sarah. I wish that I appreciated his affection for Kyra more. I do think he kind of sexualizes her.
Yeah, a couple times.
In a weird way that is uncomfortable. And yeah, but most of the time, I guess I didn't actively hate him. it was just you're kind of a jerk, you know. Like, and this is the weakness of the first person, I think.
Yeah.
I think that with a third person narrative of Noonan, I think King would have been able. He usually is able to shade his characters a little. We would have gotten a little bit of like some, flaw.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I was going to say it, and I guess we've really dissected Mike. If I had to think of something, I was going to say, and I kind of agree with Anna, like the relationship with Kyra, I enjoyed a little bit. It definitely got a little weird, but I do like, because I'm someone who really likes kids. I know Randall is too, but as a man with a graying beard, I'm not always trusted, right? Like I can't just like when I see a little kid walk by, I'll like wave to them sometimes, and you can almost sense the parents being like, "Don't look at my kid." So for him to have almost like a surrogate child of like, he always wanted to have the kid, his wife, when she was hit, was pregnant. So when he finally got to have that kind of, I mean, it's almost like grandfatherly for him at that point. But when he got to read her the bedtime story and, she hugs him and tackled my own corner, Mac, I thought that was very cute. And in the audiobook, it was funny because it's Stephen King reading it. So he does it with that main accent with the, I tackle my own corner, Mac. Very funny. But we should talk about Kyra too.
Yeah, we will.
Major.
Mel, when did you like Mike Noonan the most?
I feel like the parts of the book where I felt most connected to Mike had nothing to do with the character of Mike and had more to do with like what was going on in the story. Like,
right.
I would be interested when Mike would be on the brink of some kind of humbling. Like one of my favorite parts of the story is the triple fuck dream sequence.
It's great. Yeah.
Just because it's so risky. It's so like daring to kind of take that issue head on of like, you love these two women. Also, we're going to throw Sarah in there. And like, how are we going to fucking deal with this? I guess like this is so erotic and strange and surreal. And like, I don't think I like love Mike in that moment, but I appreciate the writing more.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Mike is a vessel for, like I agree. I feel like, and I'm with you too, Anna. Like when he talks about writer's block a bit, I think those were the times I felt. I hated when he was talking about publishing. I found it very obnoxious, especially because it goes on for so long, and it almost felt like he had an axe to grind. But I think the discussion of writer's block and that I remember feeling, somewhat, and also the guys in the basement, stuff like that. I felt like I was connecting with him on a creative level. But yeah, I think the dream sequences were when I think I was having the most fun with Mike, and that includes the fair sequence, but also the triple fuck dream sequence. I think is a good way to phrase it, and definitely one of my favorite parts of the book. I've got some sections for that written down for a later section, but yeah. Let's talk about Kyra. She's a little child. She's very adorable. What'd you think about her, Dan?
Well, like I said, I think it's funny the way little kids exaggerate and use language. So when she's like, I threw the Frisbee 5,000 times.
Yeah.
These little like exaggerations that an adult would never, we'd be like, oh, I threw it a dozen times. But it's very cute to me. I thought she was pretty well written. I mean, Stephen King has multiple children, so he knows what it's like to be around kids that age. And one thing that I'm disappointed in the miniseries already is the actors they cast to play her is clearly older than 3. It's like she's 3 or 4, right, in this book?
Yeah, she's 3, I believe. Yeah.
And I get it. It's hard to cast someone, and also with like.
Does she suck? Is she a shitty actor?
I don't never
get her out of there.
Yeah,
I know. I just love. I feel like we have like kind of a long history on this podcast of trashing child actors in Stephen King adaptations. So might as well keep that spirit alive. So the girl who plays Kira in the Bag of Bones miniseries sucks, says Dan Fleeger. Get out of acting,
Kyra was
kid.
like,
that's so terrible. Yeah,
I thought she was so obnoxious. I didn't think she was well written. I feel like King just romanticizes children. And like the dialogue did not seem realistic to me. I mean, I guess I probably spend less time around children than the average person, but I was like, this is like a manic pixie dream child. She like never cries. She's like always just like saying the cutest shit. There's just like nothing there. She's like a blank slate.
I was going to say, she reminded me a lot of one of my nieces, Greta, who's really sweet and the same age. And I do feel like he captured some of it. I think some of like the kind of oddball statements, the repetition of certain phrases, like the quarterback thing, all of that felt very real to me, because that's something I've definitely witnessed with kids of that age, is they love to repeat things, and they love to exaggerate, and they love to make stuff up. But the thing about children though is that nobody is as cute sustainably that long as Kyra is. That child would be screaming and crying and being generally annoying a lot more. Manic Pixie Dream Child I can see. Anna, any thoughts on this little peanut?
Well, I hate children.
I don't blame you.
I don't think. But I think the last thing you said is maybe the biggest problem I had. When her cuteness is very well described, right? And she seems amazing, but no one, including any human, especially humans under 3, are sustainably that adorable.
I was.
I mean,
I don't believe it.
Present company.
I don't believe it.
Yes,
you were a little nightmare. That's my guess.
And I think, but he also can write. I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, Danny is such an interesting child. I almost wish we'd gotten. I guess 3 is a little young to get Kira's perspective exactly, and he is writing in first person. I don't know. Like, I think the over cuteness of it is a little weird. I can't. The sexualization of her just is a huge rock for me to swallow.
Yeah, Mel, you sent me a little section where he described Maddie's
He's
skin.
talking about Maddie's skin, and it's like it was just as silky as her daughter's. And I'm like, why are we going there?
Come on.
One thing we did skip over with Mike and Kyra though is that do they have the shine? Because they refer to it as the zone.
Oh.
But they clearly connect psychically. So when you mentioned Danny, it
see, that was another. It's 10 pounds of supernatural content in a 5-pound bag. Like, there was a bit too much like stuff in here. I didn't need that added component that he could like visualize and see what they were doing, and
it serves no purpose.
Right, exactly.
Like, it is just like it's some. And it doesn't seem actually connected to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, except if you went with the kind of town hive mind, but that's not what it is. That's something that it's not part of the town hive mind. It's actually just with the 3 of them. And there's no reason, like, I feel like it could have kind of been cool. And there are some parts of it that I find cool. Like when he finds out about the refrigerator magnets moving in Maddie's house is kind of a cool reveal, but he should have known that, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually.
And one last infuriating thing about Mike is that he never tells Maddie about what's going on with him.
That's right.
It's like so fucking patronizing. Like, she deserves to know you ostensibly really like this woman, and like she's scared because refrigerator magnets are moving around in her house, and you're not going to be like,
and you're giving her rational explanations for it that aren't true.
Yeah, and you're also telling her daughter not to tell mommy.
What a
this is a secret
Yeah.
for us.
We have a little secret. I love the way your skin feels. Don't tell mom.
Oh God,
secrets.
Any other, like, I feel like those are, I guess I want to talk about Max DeVore a little bit, only because we just get this one. I fucking loved this scene with
the
Max
rock throwing.
Yeah, the rock throwing.
That is a great scene. That's one of the scariest scenes in the book for me.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's manic. It feels like it feels pitched on another level of mania than the rest of the book. Although I think the book has some mania to it and a lot of melodrama. But man, Max is so fucking evil, and he makes them this like super villain with this like sci-fi wheelchair that's got like 8 wheels on it, and like it's like I'm envisioning like Krang from like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like in this freaking like huge apparatus, and then Rajette is like this white-haired, tall, like 70-pound woman who can like chuck a ball like you wouldn't believe. Like, these are just like very comic book villains.
It's such a good setup when he realizes that he can't tell anyone because it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
and like, but the way Max talks this is probably more for the listeners than people on this. But Mark Hamill does the voice of the Joker in the animated series and also in some of the Batman video games. And all I could hear, because the way Max DeVore speaks is like, so like he just says the nastiest stuff about, he's like, does her pussy suck, you know? And so I could only hear it in the voice of of Mark Hamill's Joker, because it's that like hysterical. And so I'm sure some of our listeners will get that reference, but I think it's
He says cunt, first of all.
Oh yeah, he says cunt, yeah, many times, and just says the filthiest shit you've ever heard in your life.
He's a nasty old man.
I know.
Reminds
I love
me of
it.
Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. And
Yeah.
I love too that. And what's the assistant's name? I'm drawing a blank.
Rogette.
Rogette, yes. But even when she's not hitting Mike anymore, he's like, "What's the matter? You lose the strength in your arm." And it's like he's not even loyal to his own people, right? He's just gonna cut down everyone in his circle.
His daughter.
Right.
Who has leukemia?
Yeah.
No, it was cured because she got chemo and that's why she's bald. But who cares, you know? And also she was in a madhouse, or was she in a madhouse? We don't know.
But it is a scary thing too, the rocks hitting you in the water, right? Because if one does hit you,
Yeah.
you're gone. And, you know, some foreshadowing of people drowning in the lake, obviously. But I was trying to think in my case, like, what would I do in that scenario? Like, do you go underwater and try to trick them? How would you guys escape that?
Your dead wife lifts you by your nape of your neck.
Yeah, you just need a ghost
Like a
in your
kid.
life to keep you going. No, I'm just gonna read this Max DeVore line just because it's so funny. Like, he's so evil. I'm going to give you one chance to save your soul. Go away, my fine whore master, right now in the clothes you stand up in. Don't bother to back a bag. Don't even stop to make sure you turned off the stove burners. Go, leave the whore and leave the whorelet.
The whorelet.
Come
which is
man.
basically how Mike sees them. So
Yeah,
like,
I know. I was like cackling while reading it. I loved it, and I remember when I read this when I was a kid, wanting more of that. Like, that was the stuff I was craving from this book, was more ghosts and more of them. And so I remember I was so pissed off when he killed himself.
It's literally a shift in genre when like Mike is walking on the beach and he shows up and is like, young whore master. Like, what the fuck? Like, what book is
Who
this
is this
now?
guy?
Yeah.
I thought that the sci-fi wheelchair was maybe what actually kind of really brought it out of the book.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, because the rest of it would have been okay. I guess he needed to be in the wheelchair so that he could almost kill Mike, like running off the road. But also like one of those old-fashioned wheelchairs that are super heavy.
Yeah.
You know, like the wooden ones. That might have been a cool choice. And I also want to say about Max, who was fun. It doesn't really, the book kind of implies but does not actually say, and I kind of wish it was more clear, that by committing suicide, Max knew he would come back.
Yeah.
Right? That was actually his real revenge, was he was going to become a part of whatever it is that was haunting Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they make that clear, right?
No.
Like,
No,
although I do
seems...
think that's what that obviously is what happens. He says it later that Max possessed Rogette, but I wish that had been a little more like, that's his real evil genius, right? That he's going to come from behind, you know, from back from the grave to like ruin the lives of.
And the plan to keep Maddie there by being like, I'll give you all my money if you stay, like, which means that she would stay and then eventually drown Kyra, but it turns out like that like just won't hold water in court. Like, is that serious? Like, I just don't understand how he was thinking about whatever.
You can't attach weird stuff like that.
Yeah, like I said, there's
good to know for future reference. I feel like for my
can I say just for you guys legal heads, there's a thing to rule against perpetuity that is so complex with inheritance that it's the only thing you can't be sued for malpractice, because the courts recognize like it's basically like willing something to someone who could not possibly be born within 21 years. And legal scholars have wrangled with it. So as I was reading it, I was like, oh, is he going to get into this subject matter? But yeah, inheritance is very weird.
He probably did in the
like,
$1,000-page version.
But they're going to be like, look, we're not going to say you can only get this if you stay in this ghost house. The courts are going to be like, get out of here.
You have to stay in the ghost house, whore.
Exactly. It's
whore and whorelet.
Whore master.
So yeah, I love this character. It was so so deeply silly and fun, and yeah, just him like pushing Mike off the ledge with his wheelchair. I just was laughing my ass off, and
but then it gets scary.
It does
but then
get
it gets
scary.
genuinely scary.
It does, like, because just because I remember thinking, I'm like, this is schoolboy shit, right? Like just throwing rocks at somebody when they're in the water. But then you really think about the logistics of it, and it's like, no, I would be fucked because rocks hurt. Like a lot, and then especially if you're in deep water and you're not the best swimmer, it's scary,
and you're panicking.
Yeah, and you're
she's
panicking.
got a good arm.
Yeah, and she's got a good arm. Yeah, I thought that was a really effective sequence, and it was the kind of sort of mania that, like, I don't know, like, you know, when I was like, I had the same thought where I'm like, Steven, with this scene, you're out of control. But it was like, it was the good out of control, as opposed to him just like salivating over Maddie every chance
being
he can
horny,
get. Yeah, just he channeled the horny energy into some actual menace, which I appreciated. Any other characters we want to talk about before we move on? Because it's not really a character-rich story.
We should talk about Joe. I mean, poor Joe.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
poor Joe.
I guess there's not a
or
lot
do you mean
to say.
Lacey?
Isn't it John? I thought it was
Joanna.
John. Oh, Joe! I thought you were talking about the lawyer.
His dead wife.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. The dead
you
wife.
forgot her.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is, you know, and again, like as I said, or should we call her Lacey? I mean, it's just the long-suffering author's wife,
right?
Who he describes as a scatterbrain, my sweet scatterbrain.
She's so like pleasantly quirky and like
and she gave up writing because she knew I was better at it. So
yeah, I said
she just
to Mel,
does her other stuff. She tried to play banjo, but you know, like she just goes from thing to thing.
She has her desk full of shit and
you know, but she
knits
a good Afghan, you know, so
yeah,
there's that.
I found her very obnoxious in the same way. Like, I don't know, like only because we mainly just get the glimpses of their relationship and like them together, and them together is annoying, like the way it's described, and that's how it is with Lacey and Scott too. They just sound like the most insufferable couple that I would ever want to be around, and
constantly fucking.
Yeah, they're just constantly fucking, and so. Like, I mean, but the whole concept of like her, you know, this is where I wish we could have gotten the third person book where maybe we did get to go back and actually follow Joe and like her interviewing these people and getting this whole story and uncovering it, because that is interesting. Like that to me is maybe the book I would have wanted to read instead of Bag of Bones.
It seems pretty fucking, you know, is full of agency and also a writing thing that she was doing, you know, and that's like much better than anything Lacey gets. At least he's never given something quite so powerful to do. Like it's all just kind of at behest of Scott.
Right.
And I thought as someone who's done some reporting in my life, what she's doing is hard. Like that's a pretty intense investigative project to be doing. And she should have gotten a lot more credit for it. And yeah, in the third person book, it would be really cool to have her figure out this mystery.
Right.
You know? And to also struggle with whether or not to tell him, and maybe even have told him something.
Yeah.
Which is like the book kind of sort of doesn't really, I feel like there is a possibility within the book that she tried to talk to him.
Yeah.
Right. I got that vibe
she could have
too.
said anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
She didn't pin a note to
If
my
we
shirt.
weren't
So
fucking,
I don't
then-
Yeah, I will say that like one of the things I liked in the early going of the book was just the concept of, I wrote it in my notes, it's like a mystery in plain sight. It's like the whole concept that I was living with somebody who you know, was living this whole other life that I wasn't aware of, and like learning these things, like really obvious things, just that she was coming to the cabin and she was having things delivered, and just this whole, that is a compelling concept to me. But I guess like ultimately the mystery of what Joe is up to is a lot less interesting than what Joe was actually doing. And we don't find out what Joe was actually doing until much later, like the last, you know, part of the story. So yeah, it was hard for me to connect to that character. I mean, again, like we're mainly seeing her in dream sequences where he's, you know, fucking her on the raft. Luckily,
she's another just woman that like is exactly what Mike needs in his life for a period of time. And there's no messiness around her. There's no faults. There's just like, Joe was great. I miss her.
She's a scatterbrain.
She's a scatterbrain.
Really right.
So cool.
I just want to say my favorite character in the book was Joe.
Yeah, you like
no,
Joe? Oh, no. Hey, man.
I didn't really weigh in on her, but yeah. I agree with what was said on her.
I like Buddy Jellison.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing was
Jellison.
Some of these guys, like, you know, even Bill, Buddy, like, a lot of those people were interesting. Like I would have liked to spend more time with them, but yeah, I really just in the end never really, aside from Bill, but like even then Bill was just like, you and me we ain't good no more, you know? And that felt very abrupt in its own way too, because it's like, Mike's just trying to figure out what happened with his wife or whatever. And it just seems like that felt a little abrupt to me, but, and you know, and like his wife being so furious and everything, those were good scenes, but, I never really felt connected to any of these auxiliary characters, which I remember being really disappointed by when I was younger. Cause I was like, oh, cool. Small Maine town with lots of people. Hopefully it'll be an ensemble piece. And it really didn't end up being one. So cool. Any other thoughts on characters? Awesome. Let's, talk about Misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my Misery!
Annie!
Here in Misery, we talk about the things we hated, and obviously we've touched on a lot of them, but we have some, we probably have a few passages we could read. If anybody wants to bring any up, let me know. I just wrote down all this writing bullshit, because I think that entire the opening talking about various authors and their places on the bestseller lists and how many books you put out a year. I thought it was interesting for like 5 pages, and then it kept going, you know?
Do you mean the publishing thing? Cause I don't,
the publishing thing. Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah. I mean, we've touched on this earlier, but just but I've spoken on this podcast before about how much King's anti-fat, bias is troubling to me. So you mentioned it in the context of other books you've been talking about, but he's talking, this is the deposition scene, which is, bad for other reasons too. So Durgan chuckled fatly.
Oh, I literally am bringing that up right now.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's good. Keep going.
Okay. What is that, by the way? And also, I've heard King go off on adverbs before.
Yeah,
and that is a terrible use of an adverb.
Like, read the next sentence. Doesn't even call it out. He's like, why not?
Why not? He was a fat guy. Most fat people I like. They have expansive natures to go with their expansive waistline.
Awful.
But
awful.
There is a subgroup which I think of as evil little fat folks. You don't want to fuck with the ELFFs if you can help it. They will burn your house and rape your dog if you give them half an excuse and a quarter of an opportunity. Many of them stand over 5'2", Durgan's height, I estimated. Many are under 5 feet. This is such a specific thing. Yeah. They smile a lot, but their eyes don't smile. The evil little fat folks hate the world. Mostly they hate the folks who can look down on the length of their bodies and still see their own feet.
Jesus.
Oh, this included me, although just barely. I guess he's not so trim. Maybe. I know he refers to himself as athletic.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Anyway, that is just no need for, also just why?
If you're fat,
or why not?
Rape
I guess.
A dog. Actually, the word rape gets thrown around a lot in this book in a way that is like very casual.
Rape your dog.
Could have just left it at laughed fatly. That was bad enough.
I know. We would have gotten your point, Steve.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, I wish I could transport myself to the day when he wrote this section just to see what was going on, because it feels like he's on something. It's like it feels like somebody worked him up or something, or like he drank too many
It does feel like so many passages in this book are Stephen writing furiously with and saying yeah and then not coming back to it later to look at what he wrote.
That should have been edited. Unnecessary.
Just on the adverb thing, can I add one that I didn't like?
Yeah.
Okay.
When they had the barbecue at Maddie's house, he describes the meal and says, "We ate hugely." And that reminds me of a certain someone that I, again, have compared him to, who used the word hugely in times that I did not think it was appropriate.
That is funny.
I feel like I'm crossing up. I have as discreetly as a pimp. We talked about that. Pregnant by 12. Talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of it.
There's one on... There's an example of writing that really fucking I don't even know. I hope we can come up with a label for this. So this is just him talking about what he's done during the day. I thought my pal in the Bosox cap would have approved. I checked my watch and saw that I had finished my village burger 45 minutes ago. Close enough for government work, Kemosabe, especially after engaging in an energetic game of trash bag treasure hunt. And it's like, that's like 5 little inside jokes with yourself in like one sentence. It's like so obnoxious. It's like, again, that like folksiness that's like
Diablo Cody dialogue.
Like, what is it? I hate it. It's like King times 10. Like, it's when he goes overboard with his stupid little proverbs.
I know. On page 348, this just made me laugh. Because if anybody said this, I would kick them in the balls. Maddie's like saying, "Oh, I felt something. It felt like I don't know." And he said that, and she goes, "Like a vibe?" And he goes, "Yes, a vibration, but not a good vibration." Like in the hold on, this is so good, but not a good vibration, like in the Beach Boys song, "A bad vibration." I lost it. Because it's just like, but not a good vibration is where it could have ended. I just love that it adds, like in the Beach Boys song, and then bad, and bad is italicized.
Or you'd be like, not a good vibration, and she could have said like, "Okay, Brian Wilson," him being like, and that's Beach Boys, just so you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's Beach Boys.
You might be too young.
Yeah, you might be too young to know
reference.
about that one.
I got one. It's just another class one. It's easy to skip over when he's talking about the bad sheriff or whatever, and he talks about Cleveland style. Which, by the way, why the diss on Cleveland? Like, it just comes out of nowhere that he describes the way this guy's dressed as Cleveland style. But this is the particular thing. He was handsome in a way that would be attractive to certain women, the kind who cringe when anyone in their immediate vicinity raises his voice, the kind who rarely call the police when things go wrong at home because, on some miserable secret level, they believe they deserve the things that go wrong at home. Wrong things that result in black eyes, dislocated elbows, and the occasional cigarette burn on the boobie. The boobie. These are women who more often than not call their husbands or lovers daddy. As in, can I bring you a beer, daddy? Or did you have a hard day at work, daddy? I mean, come on. For one thing, he is lusting after a woman who could call him daddy,
Yeah.
And also, for someone who I think thinks of himself as a defender of abused women, we've talked about that before.
Oh, yeah.
That's an awfully condescending description of someone in an abusive relationship.
It's not like he was the type of guy to hit women. It's like he's the type of guy that like pathetic women would let.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
I had kink shaming use of daddy on my notes.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I was trying to think
shaming.
back.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, I was trying to think back, and I was like, "What the hell was that supposed to mean?" And then when you read that passage, I was like, "Right, that's."
I like when he wakes up and thinks that his shirt is a ghost and then realizes it's a shirt and says, "Oh shit, fuck me till I cry." What is that?
That's just kind of funny.
I will have the woman emerging from the water at the beach, and he describes her body as quite yummy.
Ugh.
Just rubbed me the wrong way.
This was awful. Page 65. It was the cut in the back of my hand. That cut had been in all the dreams. I would swear it had. And then it had actually appeared. You didn't get that sort of shit in the works of Dr. Freud. Stuff like this was strictly for the Psychic Friends hotline. I don't know. I just find it very corny. And then he has this like boomer dad joke. Right after that, I was in seat 8 too. The nice thing about flying up front is that if the plane goes down, you're first to the crash site. Shut up, Steven.
Yeah. I like this is just a perfect encapsulation of like maybe the class stuff, maybe even some race stuff. I don't know. I thought again how beautiful she looked. Her body slim in the white dress, her features clean and perfectly made. Like what? She's got to be clean and.
What were you gonna say, Anna?
Oh, just if we're gonna just continue to check off some of the class bullshit. This is after Maddie has died and is appearing as a ghost to save her child. He manages to say, "The shape solidified, and even before I could make out the face, I recognized the baggy shorts and their fading swirls of color and the smock top. Only Kmart sells smock tops of such perfect shapelessness. I think it may be a federal law." Like, why put that late? Like,
ghost? It's like in the middle of an action sequence.
It's the middle of an action season. It's a ghost who's going to save her child.
It's the ghost of the woman he loved, and he's got to make fun of her clothes when she.
Yeah.
Like how many of his readers shopped at Kmart? I shopped at Kmart at the time for clothes.
And it's a joke. And it's a joke, or supposed to be a joke.
That's
like,
so funny.
I mean, talk about not editing him. Like that's something I think an editor would be like, no.
Yeah, just picture like Tim Gunn like stepping in and like critiquing the outfit, and it's like, this is not the right time for.
This is a clinical lust treatise. For men, I think love is a thing formed of equal parts lust and astonishment. The astonishment part women understand. The lust part, they only think they understand. Very few, perhaps 1 in 20, have any concept of what it really is or how deep it runs.
I underline that too, the 1 in 20. Like, that's super fucking specific, Steve.
I know.
Cite your sources, please.
Any other bits of misery before we talk about some of the brighter spots in this novel?
There's too many. Like there's just like a lot of moments.
We are King fans. Sorry if you're listening, Steven.
Yeah. It's a horny book, and it misses more than it hits.
Hey man,
we still love you, Steve.
Of course,
but,
that's the joy of this podcast. Is we love some, we don't love some.
Steve, your features are clean and perfectly made.
I was going to say we see him as a full person.
It's very true.
See him as a daddy.
He is daddy. Let's hop on over to our word processor of the gods. Talk about some of the good stuff.
And we're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Here in Word Processor of the Gods, we talk about passages we really liked, things we really enjoyed in the story. I'm going to kick it off because I thought this was a pretty unnerving section. I almost put it in the cemetery, but I also just thought the writing was good. This is when he's talking about having measles when he was a kid. I caught the measles when I was 8, and I was very ill. I thought you were going to die, my father told me once, and he was not a man given to exaggeration. He told me about how he and my mother had dunked me in a tub of cold water one night, both of them at least half convinced the shock of it would stop my heart, but both of them completely convinced that I'd burn up before their eyes if they didn't do something. I had begun to speak in a loud, monotonously discursive voice about the bright figures I saw in the room. Angels come to bear me away, my terrified mother was sure. And the last time my father took my temperature before the cold plunge, he said that the mercury on the old Johnson & Johnson rectal thermometer had stood at 106 degrees. After that, he said he didn't dare take it anymore. I don't remember any bright figures, but I remember a strange period of time that was like being in a funhouse corridor where several different movies were showing at once. The world grew elastic, bulging in places where it had never bulged before, wavering in places where it had always been solid. People, most of them seeming impossibly tall, darted in and out of my room on scissoring cartoonish legs. Their words all came out booming with instant echoes. Someone shook a pair of baby shoes in my face. I seemed to remember my brother, Siddy, sticking his hand into his shirt and making repeated arm fart noises. Continuity broke down. Everything came in segments. Weird wieners on a poison string. I think that's all good except the weird wieners on a poison string, because I don't know what that means really. But the rest of that I think is like a really cool description that is kind of eerie to me, just about moments where reality, and this has happened to me when I've had food poisoning before. One time I had such bad food poisoning I was like hallucinating in the middle of the night in the bathroom, and it was like one of the scariest experiences of my life, and this reminded me of that in very cool ways. I think like the super tall people with scissoring legs is very spooky to me. I love that. So any other bits of word processor from the gods you'd like to share? Mel?
I think the wife corpse fuck is like one of the best Stephen King erotic sequences that I have read.
Yeah.
Here it is. She laughed, then leaned back on her haunches and stared at me. Her navel was a tiny black cup. There was something queerly, attractively snake-like in her posture. Everything down there is death, she said, and pressed her cold palms and white pruny fingers to my cheeks. She turned my head and then bent it so I was looking into the lake. Under the water, I saw decomposing bodies slipping by, pulled by some deep current. Their wet eyes stared, their fish-nibbled noses gaped, their tongues lolled between white lips like tendrils of water weed. Some of the dead trailed pallid balloons of jellyfish guts. Some were little more than bone. Yet not even the sight of this floating charnel parade could divert me from what I wanted. I shrugged my head free of her hands, pushed her down on the boards, and finally cooled what was so hard and contentious, sinking it deep. Her moon-silvered eyes stared up at me, through me, and I saw that one pupil was larger than the other. That was how her eyes had looked on the TV monitor when I had identified her in the Derry County morgue. She was dead. My wife was dead, and I was fucking her corpse. Nor could even that realization stop me. Who was he? I cried at her, covering her cold flesh as it lay on the wet boards.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, Steve.
I had
shit
that
is
in
fucked
this.
up.
Yeah, I had that in the cemetery. I love that because that creeped me out too. I love that whole section. I think it's excellent. Fleeg, you got anything?
Yeah, I just did a couple. I had that one pegged as well. I thought that was creepy as hell. It reminded me of Pet Sematary too at the end, the dead wife. A couple just the shorter quotes I found that I really like is one is grief is like a drunken house guest, always coming back for one more goodbye hug. Like I can relate to that. The one about humor is almost always anger with its makeup on. And I think, but in little towns, the makeup tends to be thin. So I like the idea too of the humor actually being anger. I'm a big Conan O'Brien fan, and the documentary Conan O'Brien Can't Stop, you see him getting impatient and he's making jokes, but you can see there's like hate behind his eyes. And I just love that when people are like, you know, I'm guilty of that as well.
Right.
And then one that I just thought is like a good reminder. It reminded me of a Boardwalk Empire quote, but he's like, I stayed though, because boredom is good. People with a high tolerance for boredom can get a lot of thinking done.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who gets bored easily, and it's, you know, it can lead to bad behaviors or destructive behaviors or just waste of time. But people that can actually be content to be bored, you know, and peaceful in the moment, I think that's a really good reminder. So whenever I see a quote about embracing boredom, I don't know, that just jumps out to me.
Nice. How about you, Anna?
I have one, but I'm going to save. I have a couple. I'm going to save one of them for Sematary. But I've referenced how much I like some of his descriptions of the writing process, especially that feeling of flow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of them. I returned to the fridge and once more forgot to open it. My hands went to the magnets instead, and again began moving them around, watching as words formed, broke apart, evolved. It was a particular kind of writing, but it was writing. I could tell by the way I was starting to trance out. That half-hypnotized state is one you cultivate until you can switch it on and off at will, or at least you can when things are going well. The intuitive part of the mind unlocks itself when you begin to work and rises to a height of about 6 feet, maybe 10 on good days. Once there, it simply hovers, sending black magic messages and bright pictures. For the balance of the day, that part is locked to the rest of the machinery and goes pretty much forgotten, except on certain occasions when it comes loose on its own and you trance out unexpectedly, your mind making associations which have nothing to do with rational thought and glaring with unexpected images. That is, in some ways, the strangest part of the creative process. The muses are ghosts, and sometimes they come uninvited. I liked that because I'm actually curious about what other people maybe have this experience, but I have had the experience. Sometimes it comes with reading, where if I get really absorbed, it is like coming back from a dream.
Yeah.
Like, and then this used to happen to me as a kid when I would read in class a lot. Like I would be, you know, because I was bored, and I would be back of the class reading sometimes a Stephen King novel.
Yeah. And
the bell would ring, and I would have to look up, and everything would seem kind of unreal.
Yeah.
You know, like it was the class that was the dream.
Right.
It was the class that was imaginary. And I feel like this description kind of, it evoked that for me.
Does that do it for writing for you as well?
There are times when like I said, I guess it's pretty normal, I think, to have writer's block. But there are times when I have been so into a piece that it will be one of those things where time stops existing.
Yeah.
And it will be like many hours into like the night or the day. And I'll look up and have sort of what happens with him at one point where like the sun is in a different place.
Yeah.
And there is this sort of dreamlike feeling of, oh wait, like where am I? You know?
Yeah.
I wish that happened more often. It's strangely pleasant. And the last thing I'll say is that sometimes when I got drunk for the first time, it felt a little like that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know drug
that
experiences that like, very similar, where you almost like dissociate from what's around you and you just get sort of locked in this moment.
Yeah, that's happened to me with writing before. I felt like it happened more when I was younger. I miss it, honestly, because I feel like I did some of my best writing in moments like that. And it's something I'm sort of chasing again now, I feel like. But I do still have times where I can't believe how much time has passed, like when I've got my head down writing, you know? And I don't know. How about you, Mel? Does that ring true for you, or are you just more workman-like with it?
It's been a long time, honestly. I feel like I am also chasing what used to happen to me when I was on role-playing forums and like inventing those types of worlds. It can still happen. It does happen with reading more if I'm really into something that I think is beautiful and like philosophically resonant. Then coming out of it does take a while, and you're kind of like, ooh, I have to recalibrate.
Right.
I can say with video games also.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
that's
Intellectual,
Sure.
but like there's a lot of times where you just get locked into this, like you were saying, like a flow state or even an
Or
alpha
fucking,
state.
because fucking and writing are the same thing.
100%. I've got one last one here. This is just, I think, a nice meditation on perseverance following grief. This is how we go on, one day at a time, one meal at a time, one pain at a time, one breath at a time. Dentists go on one root canal at a time. Boat builders go on one hull at a time. If you write books, you go on one page at a time. We turn from all we know and all we fear. We study catalogs, watch football games, choose Sprint over AT&T. We count the birds in the sky and will not turn from the window when we hear the footsteps behind us as something comes up the hall. We say yes. I agree that clouds often look like other things, fish and unicorns and men on horseback, but they are really only clouds. Even when the lightning flashes inside them, we say they are only clouds and turn our attention to the next meal, the next pain, the next breath, the next page. This is how we go on. I just like the flow of that. It feels like a moment when, you know, it's like the opposite of him like giggling as he writes, you know? It feels like something like when he's writing about, you know, extremely fat, evil people or whatever. It's like this feels more like something he perhaps wrote when he was in that transcendent, you know, sort of drifting state. And I think that's what I love about it. Has a poetry to it. Any other word processors before we hop on over to the cemetery?
I love whenever King goes off for a second about thinness between the worlds, and there was a moment on 446.
That's in my cemetery.
I'll just read like a couple sentences of it. When he's looking at the storm and they're about to go back to the house. The sky was as black as coal dust, flashing almost constantly with internal lightnings. The air had a clear ochre glow. Every breath I took tasted like the shavings in a tinderbox. The topography beyond the ridge stood out with a surreal clarity I cannot forget. That sense of mystery swarmed my heart and mind, that sense of the world as thin skin over unknowable bones and gulfs. That last bit, like with swarmed and bones and like body, I love it.
That's great. Cool. Let's mosey on over to the cemetery.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
Here in the cemetery, we talk about the stuff that creeped us out, the stuff that sent shivers up our spines. I want to kick it off. This is on page 53, and this has kind of stuck with me. And perhaps it's because I always find shrouded figures very creepy. It's always been a thing for me. It's like alien face, right, Mel? It's like
Alien face.
I have two things that scare me: alien faces and people with shrouds. That's why I hate.
What about an alien face under like a wedding veil?
Oh man, you pull back that veil, I'm not coming back. My mind is gone. But this is on page 53. This is in his dream he's having about Sarah Laughs, the cabin, and I just found this really creepy. I think I want to scream. I think I mean to turn around and run back up the driveway. I will take my chances with the thing behind me. But before I can, the back door of Sarah Laughs opens and a terrible figure comes darting out into the growing darkness. It is human, this figure, and yet it's not. It is a crumpled white thing with baggy arms upraised. There is no face where its face should be, and yet it is shrieking in a glottal loon-like voice. It must be Joanna. She was able to escape her coffin, but not her winding shroud. She is all tangled up in it. How hideously speedy this creature is. It doesn't drift as one imagines ghosts drifting, but races across the stoop towards the driveway. It has been waiting down here during all the dreams when I had been frozen, and now that I have finally been able to walk down, it means to have me. I'll scream when it wraps me in its silk arms, and I will scream when I smell its rotting, bug-rattled flesh and see its dark, staring eyes through the fine weave of the cloth. I will scream as the sanity leaves my mind forever. I will scream, but there is no one out here to hear me. Only the loons will hear me. I have come again to Manderley, and this time I will never leave. When he says how hideously speedy this creature is with an exclamation point, I love that. And that to me feels like very Gothic lit, or at least like, old school, like just that concept of like the exclamation point is something I've seen in sort of the early Gothic literature that I've read, where it's just kind of like how hideous it is, I love that. It just kind of sends a chill up my spine. But that image of this thing rushing out of the house towards you and being fast, like that to me is I love the way King describes movement a lot. What way he talks about unnatural creatures moving. I still remember perhaps the scariest, and it maybe sounds like hyperbole for me to say that, but the section in Salem's Lot where I believe it's like an officer or something. I can't remember what character it is, but see Susan. It's the first time we see Susan as a vampire, and then the way he describes the way she moves down the hill, it's very eerie to me. And I guess this is sort of the opposite of that, in that it's a very fast monster, but very spooky to me. So what else do you guys have? What scared you? So
this is actually another thinness between worlds section. And not all of it is super beautiful, but it jammed with me. Just how scared was I as I approached Sarah Laughs? I don't remember. I expect the fright, like pain, is one of those things that slip our minds once they have passed. What I do remember feeling is a feeling I'd had before when I was down here, especially when I was walking this road by myself. It was a sense that reality was thin. I think it is thin, thin as lake ice after a thaw, and we fill our lives with noise and light and motion to hide that thinness from ourselves. But in places like Lane 42, you find all that smoke and mirrors have been removed. What's left is the sound of crickets and the sight of green leaves darkening towards black, branches that make shapes like faces, the sound of your heart in your chest, the beat of blood against the backs of your eyes, and the look of the sky as the day's blue blood runs out of its cheek. What comes in when the daylight leaves is a kind of certainty, that beneath the skin there is a secret, some mystery both black and bright. You feel this mystery in every breath. You see it in every shadow. You expect to plunge into it at every step. It is here. You slip across it on a kind of breathless curve, like a skater turning for home.
Love that final image.
Sometimes he really drops the ball with the final metaphor, but sometimes he hits it.
I mean, also like the little things in this one, like the look of the sky as the day's blue blood runs out of its cheek, is like so unexpected and creepy. Kind of at the same time. Like I said, that's not, I mean, I guess I've never, what I love about horror books and about King in particular, like the scary stuff, like the thumping in the basement and actually I would say the drowning scene. Yeah, that stuff's great, but what keeps me up at night is literally the stuff about the thinness between worlds. Yeah. Because that feels like that could be true, like maybe maybe there is a thinness between the worlds, and who knows, like what could happen.
Yeah. Dan?
Just on obviously like the Sarah attack is very disturbing. But one passage within it that I found especially disturbing is when her son Keto shows up and she's just hoping, she wants him to pick blueberries a little bit longer, not to come up and see. So I believe it's Harry when they see him. So Jared grabs Keto and it says, Jared sinks his fingers deeper, pumping and choking at the same time. The sweat is pouring off him. No amount of washing will take the smell of that sweat out of these clothes. And when he begins to think of it as murder sweat, he burns the clothes to get shed of it. Yeah. Just like the idea of like the outfit you burned or you killed someone in, and then, it's the out damn spot, Lady Macbeth, but also just like there probably would be like when you have that sort of adrenaline running, like I'm sure a dog could detect the hormones coming through your sweat pores, right? It's a different sweat when it's fight or flight mode. But I also thought too that it was very disturbing how Sarah's like reflex is to laugh.
Yeah.
So when the guys are kind of sizing her up and like literally seizing her, she starts mocking that. Like she cannot help but even in that situation make fun of them, and it just makes them angrier, and you know that it's just pouring gas on the fire.
Yeah.
So that was a part that I had to like go back and reread because I was like, man, that was like, and for as slow as a lot of the other parts of this book are, like that, the carnival or whatever, the traveling county fair.
Yeah.
Those are the parts I just really got into because I was like, okay, there's something happening. It's like pumping me up a little bit. And I don't know, it jumped out as definitely scary. I wish more of the book had stuff like that happening, but it does finish pretty strong.
Yeah. I think I agree a lot with you, Mel, too. Just all the ghost stuff in the house, like the scream that cuts through, the crying that cuts through. And this section on page 134, when he has the recording, like he took a recording and he says, I rewound it, hesitated with my finger over the play button, told myself in Joe's voice not to be a fool, and pushed it. "Oh, Mike," a voice whispered, mourned almost, on the tape, and I found myself having to press the heel of one hand to my mouth to hold back a scream. It was what I had heard in Joe's office when the draft rushed past the sides of my face, only now the words were slowed down just enough for me to understand them. "Oh, Mike," it said again. There was a faint click. The music machine had shut down for some length of time, and then once more, spoken in the living room as I had slept in the north wing. "Oh, Mike." Then it was gone. That kind of stuff is some of my favorite stuff. I guess what I always found funny, and I saw this in maybe a couple of reviews, was just like, this shit is so scary. And he's always just kind of like, okay, back to writing. You know what I mean? And I know it's because he's sort of existing in this heightened state of the zone or whatever, but it's very funny to me. Like that shit would make me run for the hills. Mel, what do you have?
I had Joe under the bed at the very like first kind of like big jump scary moment. That's like when she's like, "That's my dust catcher." I think that's scary. There were some good gore moments near the end. I liked when he hit Footman with the hammer and it says, "The sound was horrible. The spray of blood erupting from the flying hair was horrible. But worst of all was the feeling of the skull giving way. A spongy collapse that came right up the handle and into my fingers."
Yeah.
Get that spongy collapse.
Love
also,
it.
Rogette's death is pretty gross.
Yeah, that was one of the things I remembered going into this reading. I didn't remember a lot, but I remembered her face like being gored by a piece of the deck. Because I when I read this when I was a kid, I was a big gore hound. So I remember that stuck with me. I remember. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just to add to that, I remember that Italian movie Zombie.
Yeah.
Where the woman gets pulled toward the wood that's sticking out and it just goes right through her head. Ugh, creepy.
Yeah, there's a similar moment in Fulci's, I believe, The Beyond.
The Beyond.
That's such a fucked up shit.
They're both Fulci, aren't they?
Yeah, they both are Fulci. Yeah,
good Italian horror.
He was good with that eye horror, but yeah,
a zombie fights a shark. So look that up. If
I could talk about that movie forever, but
page 406.
Awesome.
This is the other section I remembered from when I was a kid. I remember this really creeped me out. I read it before bed when I was young, and I feel like I had to go have a midnight snack or something. But I said, it says, "I woke in the middle of the night with someone running a hot finger up and down the middle of my back. I rolled over, and when the lightning flashed, I saw there was a woman in bed with me. It was Sarah Tidwell. She was grinning. There were no pupils in her eyes. 'Oh, sugar, I'm almost back,' she whispered in the dark. I had a sense of her reaching out for me again, but when the next flash of lightning came, that side of the bed was empty." Just good jump scare horror there. I think there's a lot of that kind of stuff in this, but yeah, it's good stuff. Anna, anything else for you?
Nope.
Cool. Anything else from y'all? All right. Well, it's time. We've been walking around the cemetery. We're getting a little hungry. It's time to feast on some pound cake.
After all you've been taught, everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin.
Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven.
He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
I mean, how we could spend another hour on pound cake.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand like how I'm supposed to like limit the pound cake to a single slice.
Well, I feel like a lot of it we covered in Misery, but there is more.
We did.
Cool. Okay, so welcome to Pound Cake. Here on Pound Cake, we talk about the stuff that made us laugh in perhaps unintentional ways, and also the sloppy, filthy stuff, although we already touched on a lot of it. But I think a lot of the ones I had were like him and Joe's sex rituals.
Early. Like we start fast.
Yeah, fast and hard. The phrase trouser mouse, I'm like, sir, you are 40 years old. You are not allowed to say things like that. What do you guys have in the pound cake forum?
I like
I'm trying to look up
when he finishes his first book and it's like a big deal that she's like reading it and he's like checking up on her and like, oh shit, is it good, you know? And he finally comes back and she's done and he's, well, I said, it's good, she said, now why don't you come inside and do me?
I have that.
I have I like during the deposition when they ask if he's having a sexual relationship with her, he says, yeah, together we look at pictures of naked, maldeformed dwarves as foreplay.
I saw that. I almost wrote that down. That's so weird.
I know. It's such a writer thing to be like, oh, look how creative I am with this little.
Is that King's Dominion with Needful Things, Randall?
I think so. I think that's a good deep cut. A room 237, we might say.
I think that's the footman from.
I'm looking for one of the many places where he talks about his enormous dick.
On page 26. Yeah, I know how that is. See ya, Mikey. Okay, Frank, keep your wee in the teepee. Guy talk. I just love guy talk.
Yeah, that's
guy
how
talk.
guys
That
talk.
is not guy talk. That is not, as Donald Trump might put it, locker room talk.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of locker rooms where we're like, yo, bro, you take your wee out.
Wee in the teepee. Guy talk.
I love the bathing suit fantasy on 66 for me. I wanted her upstairs just as she was in that photograph with strands of her hair pasted to her cheeks and that wet bathing suit clinging to her. I wanted to suck her nipples through the halter top, taste the cloth and feel their hardness through it. I wanted to suck water out of the cotton like milk, then yank the bottom of her suit off and fuck her until we both exploded.
Steven, you are out of control.
I picture them literally exploding like full body.
And that gets us, thank you so much for getting me to the quickest way to solve a problem like that is when there's no woman around to help you solve it is to masturbate. But that time the idea never crossed my mind. Instead, I walked restlessly through the upstairs house. So I can just restlessly through the upstairs room of my house with my fist opening and closing and what looked like a hood ornament stuffed down the front of my jeans.
What's wrong with your dick?
What's wrong with your dick?
Like, what is it, a Mercedes? Because what hood ornament? What? Like, I'm guessing maybe Oldsmobile. Those are kind of rectangular.
Yeah.
But
either way, probably not good.
The Bunter Moosehead.
Yeah.
I'm a big theme park
ringing
enthusiast.
Bunter's bell.
And they ring the bell. But the Country Bear Jamboree, they have like the animatronic stuffed heads on the wall. So I just picture them getting nasty, and then you zoom up, and the moose is like,
wink,
Bunter.
His first wet dream was a girl lying naked in a hammock eating a plum, which I was like, okay,
wow,
whatever gets you off.
Literary fiction. When he is getting the hand job in the dream from Sarah, and she's teasing him. First, this starts with him going, "Oh, you're killing me!" I cried. The typewriter, 30 or so pounds of IBM Selectric, was shaking back and forth on my arms. I could feel my muscles twanging like guitar strings. Do you want to know who he was, Sugar? That nasty man. Just do me, you bitch! I screamed.
Oh yeah. That's yep.
Somebody needs a spray bottle, like just chase Steven around whenever he gets like this.
They have the sweat formed in her crease, and the heat made it hot, and the pink comes glimmering through. A spray bottle.
I actually think that's good.
No, I mean I'm saying I need a spray bottle for that.
Yeah. Just do me, you bitch.
Just do me, you bitch. Anna, anything else for you in the pound cake section?
I could open pages at random, I feel like sometimes, but none of us have done the way like her. I guess it's because I'm with you, Mel. Like some of the sex stuff is good, you know. It's just so horny. It's just that there's so much of it. That's kind of what makes it pound cakey to me.
Yeah.
When I say the whole book is pound cake, it's not even that like that there is some like quirky only King could write like bad sex stuff, but then there's like King does good sex scenes too. There's just like this might be a record, you know, for how many of them there are, especially since no one has actual sex.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's very little actual sex in this book.
There's no real time sex. He doesn't have sex with anyone.
Sex.
And
sexual
he doesn't
assault is the only thing.
he doesn't come in the 3-girl dream.
Oh, I thought
like,
he did.
He does in the dream, but remember
he
like
does in the dream, but he didn't in real life.
Yeah.
He's like expecting to find semen everywhere. I mean, like I
just
can't
ropes
find
hanging from the lamp, you know.
Ew, Randall, you didn't have to.
Sorry, I know that was what Mel calls a Randall bomb. I drop them occasionally in the text.
A Rand bomb.
A Rand bomb.
No, it's a Rand mine.
Rand mine. Oh yeah, Rand mine. That's better. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, like the triple fuck sequence, the dream sequence is pretty excellent, even with the "Do Me You Bitch" in there. But I think like it's built to such a fever pitch by that point, it almost feels like cathartic. So, all right, cool. Let's walk off some of that pound cake in a place we call King's Dominion.
There's another world out there.
I know there is.
Here in King's Dominion, we talk about the connections to other King works. And who boy, like, it's kind of funny. I think about like the early books when we had no King's Dominion, and we would always joke like, wait till we get to the later ones. And those later ones, we've arrived, man, because he loves incorporating his diverse world.
Okay, and yet, can I just say, I was so disappointed that this man lives in Derry. And we get nothing
no Pennywise
about how Derry is fucked. Like, I would be fine with even just like Derry felt weird sometimes, but like,
yeah, but you get multiple Insomnia references.
I don't care.
Speaking of, I
haven't read Insomnia.
Literally on page 1, we get to re-meet Joe Weiser, who is a minor character in Insomnia as a local pharmacist. We get to catch up with him a little bit. I was happy to see him again. We also meet Mr. Ralph Roberts, protagonist of Insomnia, on page 57. Mike shares some ice cream with him, I think. And
he also calls out that he is an insomniac in the passage.
It's true. Yeah. So a little bit of some hints there. Any other I have many, but I'm just going to open the door.
We should just rattle these off. There's the dark half on.
Well, we find out with the dark half. We learn.
The suicide.
Yeah, we find. Well, no, you can say it. It's we find out that
it's the episode. They've read the book.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm interrupting.
Oh no, you're fine. But yeah, we find out that Thad Beaumont committed suicide, which I believe in Needful Things we get an update on him as well, and I believe they just say that his wife left him. So we've kind of witnessed the unraveling of that character through third-hand or second-hand sources, throughout the last couple Castle Rock Dairy books, which is very, very sad. So Thad, rest in peace. Your fate has been sealed.
I lose track of all the last names that he reuses, but I feel like everyone in the town has like a familiar last name.
Yeah. If I tracked all those, we'd be here all day.
Bill Denbrough, I guess, is an explicit It connection.
Yep.
Creatures from
beats him on the bestseller list.
Yeah, his book.
Better writer than he is. Kind of funny.
Yeah. Although he did an interview recently for Billy Summers, I believe, where somebody asked him who was the best of his fictional writers, and he said Mike Noonan. But you know why? Because he's his twinner. So there you go. We get a Dean Koontz mention on page 34 because he's name dropping a lot of authors. So I throw that in King's Dominion because we all know Dean Koontz is part of the world here.
Shawshank.
There's good old Shawshank.
I think this is something in The Shining. Are these the voices of our dead friends or just the gramophone?
I didn't catch that one.
I believe that's a piece of poetry that he cites in The Shining. The Shining is full of like pieces of poetry that he doesn't ever like give a citation for.
Oh, really?
Well, not full. Like there's a few, but I'm pretty sure that line is in The Shining or it's in some other King book. But I know it. And I don't read a ton of poetry. So
yeah.
I didn't bother Googling it. I'm sorry. I finished this book at 2:00 in the morning last night.
I was going to say, speaking of Native American attacks, the reference that the land might be Micmac burial territory.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is from Pet Sematary. It's the same tribe.
Yeah, we get an update on Alan Pangborn and Polly Chalmers from Needful Things. They're happy together, unlike Thad Beaumont. So some people are doing all right.
In the phone book, one name that I did flag is Dubé, which is Christine, right?
Yep, Dubé. That's the bad boy from Christine. We get a mention of the Wendigo. It's just kind of a passing reference, but Pet Sematary again. And he also, I believe let me bring it up. 372. He brings up the idea of a doorway where you could go back in time, and it's it's pretty much the plot of 11/22/63. And I think he even mentions JFK at one point. So clearly that stuff was in his head. I mean, he had been working on that story for, decades.
There's 19, go 19 down or whatever.
Yep. We got some 19 action.
I was gonna say after the storm hits, the old timers, they say, "'Twasn't the storm of the century."
Yep.
Which was the miniseries that was in production for ABC.
Yeah, literally, we're discussing it next month in October. So that's going to be very fun. What else here? Norris Ridgwick, who is in Needful Things and I believe The Dark Half and also Lisi's story. He shows up to, survey the situation in the end. And this is actually, this was like serendipitous timing in a weird way, because we were talking about Stud City, the story within the body on our archives episode, which is available on Patreon if you want to become a Patreon subscriber. It's a very good series we're doing, talking about the uncollected and unpublished Stephen King shorts. And in reading Stud City, revisiting it, both the version that was originally published as well as the one that was revised heavily and put into the body, there's a line in the revised version about how can a woman look at a man's erect penis and not laugh, which is a great line, and it's also used in this book. But that line was literally also in Stud City.
Question, going back to 11/22, there's the moment where he's coming out of the fair back in time bit, and he's like trying to find his way through the dark back to his house, and it says, "As I stood before the second pair of doorways, I heard a voice somewhere in the dark say quite clearly, 'No, the president's wife wasn't hit. That's his blood on her stocking.'"
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing and he was working on 11/22, that story. So maybe he didn't know that he was going to publish it, and or maybe he did and wanted to tease it. I mean, that book wouldn't come out for another, 12 years, I think. So
yeah.
Another Lisi story. He looks at Joe's Afghan.
Oh yeah, multiple mentions.
And also, this might be War Room 237, but one of the characters says "Happy Crappy."
Yep, I wrote that down.
Which is not, I think, just a main expression. It's very particularly to Christine, right?
Yeah. Well, it's used in
particular to King, I guess.
It's used. The kid uses it a lot in The Stand. That's kind of I think most people associate it with him, but it's also in The Body, because I just revisited that. Teddy says it as well. So yeah, I think it's just a main thing, but I think a lot of King readers, I know our listeners, associate it with the kid. There's a really big one that no one's called out yet, and
is it that there's a literal bag of bones in the book?
No, but that's a good one. Has anyone here read The Long Walk? Do you remember the name of the protagonist?
Oh no, I do not.
His name is Ray Garrity, which is the name of the serial killer in the book. And I remember when I was a kid reading this for the first time, I was like, what? The idea that he would just reuse the name for kicks, I was so mad about that because I was like, are you somehow bringing Ray Garrity from The Long Walk into this book? And I was so excited.
Making him a serial killer.
I know, because I love The Long Walk. That's like one of my faves. And so I remember being very dissatisfied by that, but now it's just, a thing King does now and then. Like literally in Billy Summers, there's a character named Alice Maxwell. There's also one in Cell. So it's just, bizarre. They're two different people. But
I'm going to claim The Outsider as King's Dominion.
I think you can. I
think you can. Yeah. I will say I puzzled over that because for me, the manifestation here didn't align with how I see it in there, but you are right. Like he is intentional about how he uses these things. So I do think that he definitely was intentional with that.
I'm sure we're going to see more Outsiders too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the Gibney. If he's going to stick with Gibney, he's gotta.
That's the Gibney. Oh God.
We just had a mic drop. That's the Gibney mic drop.
We're leaving that in. Mel's computer drop.
We also have the TR-90, the unincorporated town, also makes appearances in The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, Cell, Under the Dome, and If It Bleeds.
Nice. Tom Gordon coming up later this year.
I was going to say, Lisi's story again. We have vomiting of lake water.
Oh, yeah. I didn't make that connection.
Oh, there is also, I'm sorry to just be like a vague reference to this. I should have been more careful in marking it down. But I feel like there is some vaguely, we all go, not literally we all go down to drink there, but there's some, I think it's when he's talking about the writing process.
Yes,
and
yes. I remember that.
There's some kind of like gesture toward that same idea.
Yeah. I think it's when he's when he's talking about publishing, I think, and stuff, and talking about the different authors. I could be wrong, but yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So there's one other that I caught, which is there's a Royce Merrill who's mentioned.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I can only assume he's part of the Merrill clan, who we go on to
your
meet.
Fave bullies.
I love my bullies, man. So yeah, and then the only other one I had is a Room 237. King mentions a hippie compound or a hippie commune, which is such like a silly sort of concept, I think, in some ways. But in Golden Years, the miniseries, that culminates at a hippie commune. And one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in television, where a hippie character is talking to the cops and trying to say like, hey, like, you know, it's all good, man. And then he gets shot in the stomach. And it's one of the funniest like reveals I've ever, because it's like the squib is like really shockingly kind of gruesome. And and it's like it happens in the middle of this, like, because the hippies are all like, hey man, peace and love, like really corny like versions of it, because that show is the most confused show ever made. But yeah, anyways, that's my Room 237. I think and then the other big one is the raft, obviously, because there's a lot of talk about the lake.
He loves
raft.
Floats in the lakes.
And so when they were boning on the raft in the dream, I of course thought of the oil slick, you know, grabbing the girl's hair in the story and consuming her face, which is still to me probably one of the most indelible King horror images.
Agreed.
Any others that you guys have?
Yeah, so the guy that actually does the shooting and gets sent to Shawshank, his name is Randolph Footman, initials RF.
Oh shit!
Flag.
Good one.
In one of the dreams that Mike has, there's also 3 of him. He mentions he sees 3 of himself, and in the Dark Tower series, Stephen King literally permeates as ego, superego, and id. So if he is a twinner of Stephen King, that would be the Mike Noonan ego, superego, and id. And finally, one of the locals says, they're talking about, you know, the stress of the day, and they say, let the rest of it hang high where the crows can pick at it. And in the Gunslinger, the chef of Gilead, Hax, is hanged for treason, and crows pick at him while he's being hanged.
Those are some deep ones.
Deep lore.
Love it. Cool. Let's hop on over to our final thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
Whoo boy. Final thoughts. We share our final thoughts on a rating of 1 to 5 bright red Pennywise clown noses. And we also name an MVP. Who is the MVP of the book? Dan, why don't you kick us off? Where do you stand on this one?
So, like we said in the beginning, I don't remember having read this before. And then as I was reading it, it triggered the memory. But I think it's because the book to me was so unremarkable that it just did not leave that impression. And I can remember silly things from childhood that nobody should even remember. But I could not remember reading this book as a grown adult. So I don't think that speaks very well to the subject matter, the story arc, or even the characters. There were parts that I liked in this. It felt unfinished, despite the fact that it was cut down from 1,000 pages. There are just too many loose threads. I don't think it ages well with the current times, as, you know, we got into that. Some of the character motivations, some of the phrasing, some of the outlook just on others doesn't age very well. So I don't think this will be held up as a timeless Stephen King book. I don't think he would still consider this one of his favorites. In fact, he was on Colbert recently and they asked for his top 5 books, and this one was not included.
Wasn't there?
In the list.
Interesting.
Not there. So for those reasons, I will have to give this 2 bright red Pennywise clown noses, and my MVP is whoever designed the cover art, because what a bold swing, and still expect to keep your job.
Love it. Mel, what is your bright red Pennywise clown nose ranking and MVP?
I think that there is actually a really great gothic or ghost story appropriately buried deep in this book. Like,
in a bag, maybe?
In a bag. The idea of the central mystery, the way that King conveys its unfolding, You got this like dreamy mind meld. You got great action sequences, these ghost sightings, the small town's collective subconscious. Those parts are honestly very thrilling to me. I love the K names in the phone book, the communal haunting of the house, even the mention of the outsider that's corrupting Sarah's ghost. That's King at his best to me. It's bringing these supernatural scenes to life in a way that feels intuitive so that you glom onto the unreal and you just kind of get what he's going for. You know what he means when he says that certain ancestors are more solid or more dangerous in the dream world that isn't quite a dream. It just like clicks with your mind. Innately.
Yeah, that was cool too. Yeah.
But the book takes about 2/3 of its length to realize that it's been entirely atmospheric and unfocused up to that point. And only then does it start to generate what I think of as its power. And I do think that even some of that front-loaded atmosphere is working. Like those dream sequences are really something. But the book is just so imbalanced. It's screaming under the heftier weight of its back end and the relatively plodding, navel-gazing nature of Mike getting to the real questions. In a way, it actually mirrors how Mike can't see the guiding phrase owls under studio in his own manuscript until it's almost too late. King doesn't seem to discover the best parts of this book until it's almost over. And even then, he can't completely realize them. I think the strange pulpy treatises on lust, the way that the women are flimsy game pieces in Mike's world, mixed with the other grating elements of Mike's voice, really diminish the book. And sometimes it seems on the brink of self-awareness, as we've discussed, and other times it seems helplessly eye-rollingly juvenile in its pettiness and its attempts to ennoble being horny as fuck. And it wants to be sophisticated and nasty at the same time. And like, it doesn't always succeed. When it does, though, I think its messiness and daring do lend it a memorable quality. I'd say I'm left mostly frustrated by what could have been were this not such a vehicle for a very unexciting man, and unexciting thoughts on the world of publishing and what it means to think a 21-year-old is really, really hot. And I'd like to be clear that I have nothing against horny books or horny books that deal in age differences. I'm a huge Lolita fan, but I'd like them to treat the subject a lot more deftly and interestingly than this one does. I will give it, given all of that contradictory feedback, 2.5 noses.
Nice. MVP?
Blueberry the dog.
Oh, I love Blueberry. That's a good poem. Anna, how about you?
I agree with everything that Dan and Melanie have said. It's a frustrating book, and yet at the same time a boring book. Like, or it's you know it's the when you press play and erase at the same time on a tape. Like you forget it as it's happening. You know. There's so much in there that could have been better. That's why it's frustrating, right? And it is unfortunate that the emotion I'm going to most associate with this book is going to be not liking the main character. And that does kind of overpower everything. There are scenes that are really good. I think it is some of the best horny writing that he's done. You know, it's just all in the service of this terrible person. Like, and literally in his service.
Yeah.
I also, I will say that the book is going to leave me with one idea that I don't think he intended to leave, but does fascinate me, which is this idea of writing as a masturbatory act. And this idea of writing as a place that can be a selfish world, that it can be a selfish act to be in your own head in the way that some writers have to be. I actually was going to give it just one bright red Pennywise note.
You can.
Well, I think I might have been swayed by y'all. Except it's one of those books, like, I feel like I wouldn't recommend it to someone. You know, like if they said to me, like, what Stephen King book should I read? Like, is this going to show up in the top 20? Like,
I think it's a book for diehards. Like, it's like
he's done so much that's so much better. And
it is really horny, though. You would be like, oh, you want to read his horniest book?
Yeah, that's true. Do you want to read Stephen King's best sex scenes that are in one of his worst books? So I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with one just because it is so disappointing.
Sure.
that all the good things in it don't add up to much.
Yeah.
An MVP is Max DeVore.
Yes.
I do think that I would have taken much more of Max. I would have loved to have him be all over this book. I would have liked. We only see him once.
I know.
I can't believe it. It was just he's the big bad in the book, and we only see him once, and it is quite a scene.
Yeah.
So I think I would have liked a little more of him, and he does bring that gothic to the story as well.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's my MVP.
Yeah, I think these are some great thoughts you guys have had, and I feel like I've learned a lot about the book just by chatting with you all about it. Yeah, this is I can see why I never revisited this book. It's and King even admits it. He says there's a bucket and a half of plot, and I think that's ultimately what undoes it for me. Is it's too overstuffed, and I think the thing that I like about King all the time is his books do feel very intentional and very well plotted, and everything pays off. I think about Needful Things, where he's juggling so many different plot lines and so many different characters, and the book's not perfect, but the way that all of those things come together, it really is like a Swiss watch or whatever. It's like the machinery is astounding behind it all, and here it just feels really sloppy. I feel like we get these really beautiful passages of writing, a couple dream sequences that are some of my favorite stuff that I've read in King, and I think that's like why I think I'm going to give this a better nose rating than all of you, is because I think I wouldn't recommend this though, but at the same time, there's stuff in this book that's creepier than anything I've read in King in ages. I think some of the ghost stuff in Sarah Laughs, the screaming, the crying, the triple fuck dream sequence, all of those things to me are extremely effective and very powerful. And, but I really hate this character. Very much so. We didn't get into it, Mel. We had discussed, because you had initially said he can't be worse than Guard when I said that from Tommy Knockers when I was doing this. But yeah.
He's worse because we're with him the whole time. And...
Yeah.
He's worse.
Guard spends most of the book in a drunken stupor. So after we get past the first 100 pages, we were spared him for the most part. But yeah, I think this is sort of an exhausting book. It's very frustrating. And yeah, and I love what you said, Mel, just about like everything piles up in that kind of last third, and it becomes unwieldy and overwhelming to some degree. And I feel like we really don't spend the time. We don't spend time where it matters in this book. We spend way too much time litigating his a 40-year-old man's attraction to a 20-year-old, and in ways that are very muddled and not particularly illuminating. And I agree with you. It's like it's not. I'm not in, age different shamer necessarily. It's like, but just like, at least, give us a thorough, intriguing exploration. Yeah. Like if you're going to wring your hands about it, then, let that bear fruit, let it go somewhere. So yeah. And I think that's where I struggle the most is I love King for his characters. And this is a book where I really don't give a shit about the characters, except for Max DeVore, because he's a great fucking evil, nasty monster villain who knows exactly what he is. And he's not waffling around like fucking Mike Noonan over here. So yeah, I'm going to give it 3 bright red Pennywise clown noses for the spooks and scares alone, because I think they're pretty effective and there's some good writing. And Max is great. He added a half nose in his own, and so
is he your MVP?
He's my MVP. I love him. I love this guy. Bring him back. I want like a prequel. Bring him back. It's great. There is sort of a Max. I would say there's actually some funny echoes of Billy Summers in this book. His latest. I don't think any of you guys have read it yet. Have you? It's pretty good, but I actually think that there's another like 40 some year old man, 21-year-old girl relationship in this that almost feels like a direct comment on the way he handled things in Bag of Bones in ways that I think are good. We talk about it a lot in our episode. And also there's also a very DeVore-like figure, Max DeVore-like figure that surfaces in that book that is not as fun and satisfying as Max, but still a pretty fun King villain. So yeah, that does it for our episode on Bag of Bones. That was a marathon ep. We'll see how long this one shakes out when we edit it down, but it's a bear. But I feel like we did a great job breaking that one down. And stay tuned, because we're going to be back with an episode on the miniseries starring Pierce Brosnan. I think he was at a low point in his career. He's doing great now. He's in Marvel movies and shit. So Pierce is doing just fine. But I'm very excited to to dig into that. But yeah, in terms of book episodes, we've got Hearts in Atlantis coming up, and we've also got The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon coming up. So those are the next
and
ones.
Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Something Wicked This Way Comes. Yes, we are going to be discussing that in our Danse Macabre series, where we talk about the books that influence King. If you want to check out our Patreon, you can find it at patreon.com/thebarons. We've got insane amounts of content, many episodes, many.
What is it called? Content.
Well, it's hard to describe it, man. We got so much. That's the catch-all word. But we got some series going on. Like I said, we have our archival series. Dan's going to be kicking off a Dark Tower series that we're going to be hopping into soon, talking about some of the lore surrounding that world. And we've also got our film review series, The Crate, and Lobstrosities, and all that fun stuff. So all of you guys, Anna, where can we find you if people want to hear more of your beautiful voice?
Oh, thank you. I have several podcasts. Well, actually just two others. I have a interview podcast called With Friends Like These, where sometimes we talk about hard stuff. John Hodgman is coming up soon, though. And that's not particularly hard, although he's a very interesting guy in addition to being hilarious. And I also have a genre podcast called Space the Nation, in which my co-host and I, a international relations professor at Tufts, examine science fiction through the lens of politics and also, I've been joking, critical race theory.
My parents' nemesis for some reason.
Yeah. There is some basically, like, I went to grad school for history, so there is a little bit of like highfalutin talk, but also we do fun things like talk about Suicide Squad. So
cool.
Awesome. People who like this show will like that show, although Dan and I usually bring our episodes in under an hour.
Well,
incredible.
Good balance.
Just saying.
Yeah, we don't understand that. Mel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mel Castle. I mostly retweet these days, but I'm happy to connect on there. I have a website, melcastle.com. You can read some of my stories there. I can finally announce that I have a story that will be included in the upcoming anthology, The Best American Sci-Fi and Fantasy, coming out in October.
Hell yeah.
So you should pick that up and read my story about a giant crawfish. And yeah,
with a heart of
that's
gold.
it. It's just a dumb crawfish. It's just really big.
Dan, where can we find you?
Dan Flieger on most socials. And as Randall mentioned, we're going to start doing a Dark Tower-centric series. Not quite conspiracy radio, but it's going to be a few shades away. So have some fun stuff coming up there at the end of the month.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. And you can find me at Randall Colburn on all socials. And here on the Losers Club, lots going on. And thank you for listening. Let's sign off with a long days and pleasant nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
This is the end of our show. For now. We hope you enjoyed this production. If you like our programming, consider searching for other Bloody Disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.